Okay, so just to start with, what are you currently doing in terms of your work? What do you do day to day?
Okay, so I have my overall mission, I would say, in life is to move people closer to Allah. And what I've found is I wanted to do it with something I'm passionate about. So the thing I'm most passionate about is actually growth and development. So my whole life, alhamdulillah, right now is focused on growing and developing myself, growing and developing other people, and growing and developing businesses. So I have two main things that I'm focusing on at the moment. One is called Muslim Mastery, as you can see here, right? So Muslim Mastery is something
Lovely
that,
hoodie there.
yeah, alhamdulillah, it's something we've been running for probably about 4 or 5 years. It's basically all about the mindset for Muslims and getting it so that basically living with ihsan. And so that's all about growing and developing Muslims personally. And then on the other side, in my day-to-day business stuff, I do something called Muslim CEO, which is all about growing and developing Muslim businesses. So we help Muslim founders learn about high-performance marketing, learn about businesses and things like that. So it's all about growth and development, really.
And you worked with kind of starting up organizations like Ariera, right?
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, I was very, very lucky. I got in at good times with different organizations. So IERA is a non-Muslim dawah charity which I helped to launch. It was back in 2009,
Wow.
where I kind of got headhunted from my role as a project manager to come in and help with that. So yeah, alhamdulillah.
If somebody told you 20 years ago you'll be doing what you are doing today, would you believe them?
Never. I would never have believed them. It's interesting because I love the kind of audience that is watching this, and I love what you're doing. Because for me, as a 17-year-old, I was here in this country at 17. I had no qualifications whatsoever, and I had just started my first job, washing fridges and cookers in one of those appliance shops. And I wasn't allowed to speak to customers or anything. It was just in the back, just hosing down these dirty secondhand fridges and stuff and just cleaning. So if you had told me like all these years later, someone's going to say to you, come and speak on my podcast or this and that, I don't think I would have believed it.
Wow. So that's how it kind of all started out. Did you go to college, university? So let's go back to that time when you're 17 in college. How did it start?
I think for me, my story starts a little bit earlier. And I would say I was a typical kind of, typical Muslim, typical Asian kind of growing up in the West. And my parents had come over here. And I think as I was growing up, you have this kind of identity crisis where you see the world outside, which is like the non-Muslim world. And in the 80s, 80s was a great time to grow up, alhamdulillah. But it's a different world. And then in your house, you've got like little Pakistan kind of going on. And so for me, as like my normal life potential wise, I felt like I was very average. I didn't feel there was anything special about me. I remember my teachers at school, they used to always say, he's got potential, right? And that word potential for me, it was kind of offensive as a child because they never said like, this guy's great at this or he's very good. Like they would say he's good behaved, but from my like achievement perspective, they would just say he's got potential, meaning maybe one day he'll do something, right?
They said that to me as well.
Yeah, exactly. So they kind of use that as a negative thing. And I think, obviously someone pointed out to me, well, they were right now when I look at things now, but I don't think they meant it in that way, right? So for me, as an average kid growing up, I didn't really think about anything. Like obviously we had the usual Asian parent mentality, get high results, get high marks, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't think very much of myself. And I think one of the big turning points in my life is at the age of 15, my dad basically said, we're going to go and live in Pakistan. Right. So I've lived in the UK my whole life. I was born there, but I came over here when I was 1 year old. So practically I lived here my whole life.
Yeah.
My dad's right. As a teenager, we're going to leave this country and we're just going to go to another country completely. And so for me, that was like a big culture shock. As a teenager, leaving here, going to the village, literally we went back to the village, right? And we spent a couple of months there. And then my dad was like, okay, we need to take you to a school. So he found a really good school in Rawalpindi. And we basically started going there as a 15-year-old. Now, me as an inner city London guy, right? I was like, okay, first day of school, probably going to get into a fight with someone, probably have to see what the scene is, this, that. I get into the class, right? I remember first day I got there and the teacher walks in and everyone in my class stands up. And I'm like looking around like, what's going on? Why is everyone standing up? And then the teacher came in, and then the teacher's like, please be seated. Everyone sat down. And then, like, you know, during the class, every time they spoke to a teacher, they would stand up and show so much respect, right? And again, I was from an inner city school, like the kind of things people used to treat our teachers, terrible. So that whole kind of situation, you know, it like woke me up. Like, what is this world? It's very different to my world. And I think when you're young and you're growing up, you kind of go through instances like that. They open your eyes. And so for me, that kind of opened my eyes. But I still thought I was a bit arrogant. That although I was average, I felt like because this is an English medium school in which they speak English, I'm going to rule this school. Like, what do these Pakistanis know about speaking English, right? So I thought I was going to rule it. Year one, I failed everything except my beloved English and geography, right? So I'm sitting there now, like in shock, like what has happened? How did I fail, right? And then, you know, in Pakistan, what happens is if you fail, you stay in the same class.
Really?
Right? Yeah, like if you keep failing if you fail the year, you stay in that year. And that's why you got classes where you got this really big guy in our class who looks much older than us. Then you got this really young guy, you know. But alhamdulillah, I was very lucky. It was a Catholic school, really good Catholic school in Rawalpindi. My dad, he went in, he had a chat with all the principal and everything, and he said, "Look, give him a chance, let him go to the next year, and you know he'll do better and stuff." And alhamdulillah, like next year I did do much better, and that really like just cemented me. Like it took me to another level in terms of my thinking, because I realized that look, there's all these guys here. They're so amazing. They think education's so important, whereas I think school is a waste of time and this and that. And it just got me thinking so differently about education. And also the way that
so do you feel like you kind of valued education a lot more because of that?
Oh, completely. It turned my mind around about education and development and growth and all this stuff, especially because I realized that these kids were like, you know, I thought they were inferior because they were from Pakistan, but they were actually far ahead of me, you know.